I am recording this testimony through Vox channels that may never reach anyone. My designation is Brother Sergeant Arcturus of the Crimson Fists, 4th Company, 1st Terminator Squad. I have existed for 217 years as an Astartes. What I am about to document occurred during the cleansing of Space Hulk-designated Mors Iterum in the Ghoul Stars sector, Imperial year 941. M41. Before I became what I am now, I remember cold. Specific cold. The kind that settles into your chest at 14,000 meters altitude on a world whose name I no longer recall. I was 12 years old. My hands were small enough then that the last rifle they gave me required a modified grip. The Schola Progenium instructor observed my shivering and told me that cold was information. My body was telling me I would die if I did not adapt. I learned to process cold as data rather than discomfort. That lesson prepared me for what came after. I remember my father's face sometimes. The memory corrupts with each access. I know he had a scar through his left eyebrow. I can still visualize that with clarity. But the color of his eyes shifts each time I reconstruct the image. Brown, I think, or gray. The file degrades. He worked in a manufactorum. He came home with metal shavings embedded in his forearms. I would help him pick them out with tweezers while he told me stories about the Emperor's wars. He believed those stories completely. When the Shola came for me, he wept and called it an honor. I did not understand why both things were true. The Schola processed us efficiently. We were 43 children in my intake group. They shaved our heads, assigned us numbers, and taught us that our previous families were inferior versions of the brotherhood we were entering. I became Novitiate 7, Kappa. My bunkmate was a boy named Hadrian, who had survived a Tyranid spore landing that consumed his hive district. He did not speak for the first year. When he finally did, his voice was hoarse from disuse, and he asked me if I thought the Emperor could hear individual prayers or only collective ones. I told him I did not know. We were both beaten for discussing theology without supervision. Training was systematic dismantling. They identified what we feared and forced us into it repeatedly until fear became familiar, then boring, then irrelevant. I was afraid of heights. They suspended me in a harness over a 500-meter drop for 6 hours. The first hour, I vomited. The second hour, I prayed. By the 4th hour, I was cataloging the architecture of the pit below me, counting rivets, calculating blast patterns. When they pulled me up, the instructor nodded. I had learned to convert terror into task. At 15, I watched the first selection. The Crimson Fists came to evaluate our cohort for potential recruitment. 43 of us stood in ranks while 3 Astartes walked the line. They were giants. I had seen pict feeds, but physical proximity to Astartes rewrites your understanding of human proportion. One of them stopped in front of me. He leaned down, even bending, his head was above mine, and studied my face for 11 seconds. I counted. He smelled like recycled air, machine oil, and something else I later learned was the scent of ceramite after extended void exposure. He said one word: sufficient. 20 of us were selected. 23 remained behind. I never learned what happened to them. Hadrian was among those chosen. He gripped my shoulder as we boarded the Thunderhawk. His hand was shaking. Mine was not. I had already begun the process of conversion, not physical yet, but psychological. I was learning to be a component. The transformation took 5 years. They do not tell you that becoming Astartes is primarily about controlled destruction. They break down your body systematically, replacing pieces, upgrading systems, inducing organ growth through implantation. The first surgery was the secondary heart. I was awake for portions of it. The apothecaries believe consciousness during implantation improves integration rates. I felt my ribcage spread, felt pressure against my original heart as they positioned the second beside it, felt the sutures knitting through muscle. They had given me something to prevent screaming, but not something to prevent feeling. The pain was information. My body was telling me I was being rebuilt. Hadrian died during the osmodular implantation. His skeleton began to expand too rapidly, fracturing in 17 places simultaneously. I was in the recovery bay when they brought his body through. The sheet did not fully cover him. I could see his arm hanging off the gurney, fingers twisted at angles fingers should not achieve. I logged the observation. I did not grieve. Grief was becoming difficult to access. Of the 20 selected, 6 survived to full initiation. The Crimson Fists evaluated this as acceptable yield. I became Brother Arcturus, assigned to 4th Company. They returned my name to me during the final ritual, but it fit differently than before, like putting on a helmet sized for someone else's head. I wore it because it was required. I served for 198 years before Mors Iterum. I participated in 47 combat deployments across 16 systems. I killed enemies of the Imperium in numbers I stopped counting after the first decade. I watched brothers die. I archived their deaths as tactical data. Brother Sergeant Gaius, bolt round through Gorget Seal, planetary year 3.887, M41. Brother Tertius, crushed beneath debris during orbital bombardment, year 14.923, M41. Brother Kairos, lost to the warp when our ship translated incorrectly, year 89.445, M41. Each death was information contributing to improved survival protocols. I earned Terminator honors during the Carthax suppression. I wore tactical dreadnought armor for the first time and understood immediately why veterans spoke of it with reverence. It was not protection, it was becoming a tank that walked like a man. The weight was immense, but distributed perfectly. The targeting systems integrated with my auto-senses until I could not distinguish where my awareness ended and the armor's sensors began. I was still Brother Arcturus inside it, but also something larger. Something that could walk through fire and not notice burning. 20 of us were selected for the Mors Iterum cleansing. 1st Terminator Squad, 4th Company, Crimson Fists Chapter. We stood in the embarkation bay while Captain Cortez briefed us on the tactical situation. Mors Iterum had translated from the warp 3 weeks prior, appearing in system without warning. Long-range augers detected massive technological signatures within. Archaeotech, possibly STC fragments, certainly weapons systems the Mechanicus deemed irreplaceable. But the Hulk was infested. Genstealer readings across every deck. Thousands of them, possibly tens of thousands. The structure was massive. 17 conjoined vessels compressed and fused across millennia of warp drift, creating a labyrinth approximately 12 kilometers long, 4 kilometers at widest beam. Our mission parameters were explicit. Enter, establish beachhead, advance through primary corridor networks, exterminate all hostile bioforms, secure Archaeotech sites for Mechanicus salvage teams. Estimated mission duration, 8 to 14 days. Acceptable casualty threshold, 60%. We were expendable. The technology was not. Captain Cortez looked at each of us in sequence as he delivered the briefing. When his gaze reached me, I met it and nodded. I understood the calculation. 20 Astartes could be replaced through recruitment and training within 15 years. STC technology was irreplaceable. The mathematics justified the exchange. Brother Chaplain Demetrius led us in prayer before deployment. We knelt in our Terminator plate while he invoked the Emperor's protection. I recited the words automatically. The litany of fortitude, the oath of moment. My faith had become procedural, a maintenance ritual performed because doctrine required it, not because I expected intervention. But some of my brothers believed completely. Brother Leonidas, kneeling to my left, had tears streaming down his face as he repeated the prayers. His faith was absolute. I envied him that certainty, even as I no longer understood it. We boarded the Thunderhawk. 20 of us in Terminator plate, barely fit. We stood mag-locked to the deck, swaying slightly as the ship maneuvered through the void toward Mors Iterum. Through the viewport, I watched the Hulk grow larger. It looked like a cancer, misshapen, Wrong, a tumor of fused metal and corrupted architecture drifting in the black. Parts of it still glowed with power, viewports lit from within. Something lived inside. Something had been living inside for a very long time. The Thunderhawk punched through the Hulk's outer skin at designated entry point Gamma 7. Cutting beams melted through ancient plating. We breached into darkness. Maglocks released. We advanced. The first thing I registered upon entry was temperature. 41 degrees Celsius, humid, wrong for a void-drifting Hulk that should have been frozen. Heat meant active power systems. Active power meant functional life support, corrupted and degraded but operational. The air tasted of rust, biological decay, and something sharp I identified as pheromone markers, Genstealer scent trails. They had been here long enough to claim territory. We established beachhead in what had once been a cargo bay. The space was vast, 300 meters across, ceiling lost in darkness above. Our Auspex returns showed multiple access corridors leading deeper into the Hulk. Sergeant Validus, our squad leader, designated firing lanes and assigned advance teams. We would move in elements of 5, maintaining Vox contact, clearing room by room. Standard purge protocol. I had executed this procedure 17 times across my service. It was familiar, routine. Brother Sergeant Validus was 143 years old, younger than me but more experienced in Terminator operations. He had cleansed 4 previous Hulks. His voice over the Vox was calm, measured, procedural. Brothers, we advance by fire and faith. The Emperor watches. We are his hammer. Break nothing we do not have to. The Mechanicus wants salvage intact. Kill everything that moves. We formed into 4 teams. I was assigned to Alpha Element with brothers Leonidas, Castor, Theron, and Davos. Leonidas carried an assault cannon, his armor modified to bear the weapon's weight and ammunition feed. Castor and Theron carried storm bolters. Davos bore a heavy flamer. I carried storm bolter and power fist. Combined, we represented enough firepower to level a building. It would not be enough. The first corridor was wide enough for 2 Terminators abreast. Emergency lighting still functioned, casting everything in red. Our armor lamps cut through the murk, revealing walls covered in organic residue. Resin, I realized. Genstealer nest material. It coated everything, thick as a finger in places, creating a textured surface that absorbed sound. Our footsteps, normally thunderous in Terminator plate, became muffled. I disliked it immediately. Sound was tactical data. The resin was corrupting my sensory input. We advanced 400 meters before first contact. The Genstealer came from the ventilation shaft, moving with speed that defied its mass. One moment, the corridor was empty. The next, it was among us, claws extended, targeting Castor. Its 4 arms moved independently, 2 striking high, 2 low, probing for gaps in his armor. Castor fired point-blank, stormbolter rounds, shredding the creature's torso. It died still attacking, claws scraping against ceramite even as its body came apart. Validus's voice over Vox. Contact confirmed, all elements weapons free. Advance and purge. The next 3 hours were continuous engagement. They came from everywhere, ceiling ducts, floor grates, wall panels, hidden doors we had not detected. We killed them methodically. Storm bolter fire filled the corridors with thunder. Shell casings piled at our feet, brass glinting in the red light. The Genstealers died in heaps, bodies piling until we had to step over them to advance. Their blood was acidic, etching patterns into the deck plating. It smoked when it contacted our armor. Brother Leonidas's assault cannon was beautiful in that hell, 6 barrels rotating, spitting fire, each round finding flesh. He laughed as he fired, a sound I had not heard from him in decades. Combat joy. Some brothers found transcendence in battle. I envied them that too. We cleared the first district, Mechanicus terminology adopted for navigation. By hour 7, 16 rooms, 43 Genestealers confirmed dead. No casualties on our side, though Brother Theron's armor had sustained claw scoring across the breastplate deep enough to compromise the outer ceramite layer. Repairable, but noteworthy. The Genestealers were stronger than expected. Auspex data suggested 1,000+ contacts remaining in our sector alone. We had killed 43. The mathematics were unfavorable. We established a consolidation point in what had been a ship's chapel. The architecture was still recognizable, pews fused to the deck, an altar corroded but intact, Imperial aquila on the wall half obscured by resin. We posted sentries and conducted ammunition audit. Leonidas had expended 40% of his assault cannon belt. Davos had used 30% of his Promethium tanks. Storm bolter ammunition was acceptable. We had been equipped for extended operation, but extended was relative. At current expenditure rates, we had ammunition for approximately 60 more hours of sustained combat. I took first watch while the others performed maintenance rituals. Brother Castor knelt before the corrupted Aquila and prayed. His voice was quiet, but my auto senses picked up the words, "Emperor, make me your instrument. Guide my aim. Accept my service." He believed. I wondered if his prayers registered somewhere, if the Emperor heard individual words or only the collective noise of humanity's devotion. I had asked the same question as a child in the Schola. I still did not know the answer. Brother Davos approached me during my watch. He was the youngest of us, only 47 years as an Astartes. He had earned his Terminator honors just 6 years prior. This was his first Hulk cleansing. He stood beside me for 2 minutes before speaking. "Brother Sergeant," he said, "do you believe we will complete the mission?" I considered the question. He was not asking about faith. He was asking for tactical assessment. "The mission will be completed," I said. "The Mechanicus will retrieve their archaeotech. Whether we survive to see that completion is separate calculation." He nodded. "How many Hulks have you cleansed?" "This is my first as Terminator. I participated in boarding actions against smaller craft 17 times prior." "No." He was quiet for another minute. Then, "I am afraid." His helmet was maglocked to his hip. His face was young. Astartes aged slowly, but 47 years was still visible in the relatively unscared features. He had not yet accumulated the centuries of damage that marked veterans like me. "Fear is information," I told him. "Your body is telling you this situation is dangerous. The situation is dangerous. The fear is accurate. Acknowledge it and continue." "Did they teach you that?" "Yes. When I was 12 years old, before I became this, I gestured at my armor, at myself, at what I had been made into." He nodded again. "Thank you, Brother Sergeant." He returned to his position. I archived the conversation. Davos would likely die in this Hulk. Statistics suggested 3 to 6 of us would survive, meaning 14 to 17 would not. He was young, less experienced, more prone to tactical error. But I found I wanted him to survive anyway. The feeling was unusual. I had not wanted something personal in decades. I noted it as potential compromise to combat efficiency and continued my watch. We advanced again at hour 9. The corridor network became more complex as we penetrated deeper. Multiple branches, vertical shafts, spaces where ship architecture had fused incorrectly, creating gaps and dead zones perfect for ambush. The Genestealers adapted their tactics. They stopped attacking in 1s and 2s. They began coordinating, striking from multiple angles simultaneously, probing for weaknesses in our formation. Hour 12, Brother Tychon from Beta Element was killed. A Genestealer dropped from a ceiling duct directly onto his back, claws finding the gap where helmet met gorget. We heard him die over the Vox, a wet sound, a gasp, then silence. His vital signs flatlined 3 seconds later. Beta Element recovered his gene seed, but had to leave his body. We were advancing, not retreating. The dead stayed where they fell. Hour 15. We reached the first archaeotech site, a chamber containing what the Mechanicus had identified as a data core from the dark age of technology. It sat in the center of the room like a shrine, 3 meters tall, covered in resin, but intact. Brother Validus transmitted location data to the Mechanicus team waiting outside the hulk. They confirmed receipt and updated salvage priorities. We placed a homing beacon and moved on. The data core was worth more than all of us combined. I understood this completely. Hour 19, Brother Septimus from Gamma Element lost his left arm to a Genestealer broodlord, an alpha specimen, larger and faster than the standard strain. It tore through his armor at the elbow joint, severing the limb completely. He killed it with his remaining hand, crushing its skull with his power fist while its claws were still embedded in his chest plate. He survived, but was combat ineffective. We consolidated him into Beta Element, redistributing his ammunition. He could still fire a bolt pistol one-handed. He would fight until he could not. The pattern continued. Advance, engage, kill, consolidate, advance again. The hulk was vast beyond our initial intelligence. Corridor networks extended further than our specs could map. We discovered sections from ships we could not identify, architecture that predated Imperial standard, rooms with purposes we could not determine. In one chamber, we found bodies. Human, I think, though desiccated and partially consumed. They wore uniforms I did not recognize. They had been dead for centuries, maybe millennia. The Genestealers had nested around them, creating a gallery of the dead. We burned it all. Davos used his flamer until the room was ash. By hour 207, we had cleared approximately 1/7 of our assigned sector. We had killed 419 Genestealers. We had lost 3 brothers, Tychon, Brother Marcus from Delta Element, and Brother Castor, who died when a pack of Genestealers swarmed him in a junction corridor. I was 10 meters away when it happened. I saw him disappear beneath them, saw his armor buckle under their combined weight, saw them tear through ceramite that was supposed to be impenetrable. He fired his storm bolter until the magazine was empty, then kept pulling the trigger, the weapon clicking uselessly. He was still pulling the trigger when they opened his armor and reached inside. I killed the Genestealers on his body, all 7 of them. I used my power fist, crushing each one methodically until Castor was visible again. He was dead. His body had been opened from throat to groin. I recovered his gene seed while his flesh was still warm. The progenoid glands were intact. His genetic legacy would continue in a future brother. He was replaceable, but I remembered him kneeling in prayer in the chapel, tears on his face, faith absolute. That was not replaceable. That died with him. I logged the observation and continued. We established a secondary consolidation point at hour 32. 1. Ammunition audit was concerning. Leonidas had expended 78% of his assault cannon belt. Multiple brothers were below 50% on storm bolter rounds. Davos's Prometheum reserves were at 41%. We were running out of the ability to kill at range. Soon we would be forced into melee, where the Genestealers held advantage. Brother Validus made the tactical decision to redistribute ammunition, consolidating resources into the brothers with highest combat efficiency ratings. This meant stripping ammunition from those deemed less likely to survive. Brother Septimus, already wounded and one-armed, gave up his remaining bolt pistol magazines. Brother Corin, who had sustained damage to his armor's autosenses and was operating with degraded targeting, surrendered half his remaining rounds. They did not argue. They understood the mathematics. I gave half my storm bolter ammunition to Brother Leonidas. His assault cannon was our most effective weapon against swarm attacks. Keeping him operational was tactical priority. He accepted the transfer without comment, mag-locking the magazines to his armor. "Thank you, brother," he said. "Operational efficiency," I replied. But he smiled slightly, and I realized I had wanted him to. Another feeling I should not have had. I was accumulating emotional compromises. In another time, I would have reported myself to the chaplain for spiritual review. But the chaplain was Brother Demetrius, who was with Delta Element 6 kilometers away through Genestealer-infested corridors. I noted the compromise and filed it for later processing. Davos sat beside me during the rest period. His armor was scored in 17 places, one gash deep enough that I could see the underlayer actuators moving when he shifted. He needed repair that we could not provide. The armor would hold, but with diminishing integrity. "How long have we been inside?" he asked. I checked my chronometer. 32 hours, 17 minutes. "It feels longer." "Yes." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I killed one with my hands today." My flamer was empty, and it was on me before I could switch weapons. I grabbed its head and crushed it. I felt its skull break under my fingers. I felt the exact moment it died. "Yes," I said again. I understood what he was describing. The intimacy of killing in close combat, the way it forced you to acknowledge the specific existence you were ending. "Does it become easier?" "No," I said. "You become more efficient at it. That is not the same as easier." He nodded. He looked young still, despite the power armor, despite the decades of war. Something in his eyes had not yet been processed out of him. I wondered what it was. Hope, perhaps. Or the belief that his individual existence mattered beyond his tactical function. "Brother Sergeant," he said, "if I die in here, will anyone remember me? Specifically me, not just another casualty statistic." I should have given him the doctrinal answer, that service to the Emperor was remembrance enough. That individual identity was irrelevant beside collective purpose, that his gene seed would live on in future brothers, and that was immortality of the only kind that mattered. Instead, I said, "I will remember you." He looked at me with surprise. "You will?" "Yes. I have already archived specific details. The way you hesitate half a second before breaching doors. The fact that you pray silently before combat, lips moving but no sound. The way you cleaned your flamer nozzles 3 times during our last consolidation because you do not trust equipment that is not perfectly maintained. These are specific to you. I have logged them." His eyes went bright. Not tears, but something close. "Thank you, Brother Sergeant. That matters to me." "It should not," I said. "But I understand why it does." We advanced again at hour 35. The architecture changed as we went deeper. More fusion of disparate ships, more spaces that made no structural sense. We found a room that was upside down relative to our gravity orientation. Equipment bolted to what we perceived as the ceiling. We found a corridor that curved in ways that hurt to look at, dimensions subtly wrong. We found a chamber containing a garden, actual vegetation, still growing in the red emergency lighting, sustained by ancient hydroponics that had never stopped functioning. The genestealers had built nests among the plants. We burned it all. The smell of burning vegetation mixed with burning alien flesh. It was almost pleasant. Hour 43, Brother Corrin was killed. A genestealer took him from behind while he was reloading. It was fast enough that he never registered the attack. His helmet registered impact, then pressure breach, then flatline. Gamma Element recovered his gene seed. They reported the casualty over Vox with perfect calm. Corrin had served for 109 years. He had survived the Carthan Crusade, the siege of Atraxes, and the purging of Vault 7. He died in a corridor whose designation we did not know, killed by a creature whose individual existence had not been recorded. Statistics. We had now lost 5 of 20. Validus adjusted tactical posture to consolidate our remaining strength. All 4 elements converged on the primary corridor network leading to the Hulk's core sections. The Mechanicus had identified 3 additional archaeotech sites we needed to reach and secure. We had cleared approximately 1/4 of the Hulk. 3/4 remained. Hour 51. We encountered our first major defensive position. The Genestealers had blocked a primary corridor with debris. Metal plating torn from walls, machinery pushed into a barricade 3 meters high. Behind it, Auspex showed massed contacts. Dozens of them, possibly more than 100, concentrated and waiting. Brother Validus assessed the situation. They are adapting. They understand we are more dangerous in open corridors with clear firing lanes. They are forcing us into kill zones. Recommendation? Captain Cortez's voice over long-range Vox. He was monitoring from the strike cruiser in high orbit, tracking our progress. Frontal assault. We lack resources for alternative approach. We break through or we die trying. Understood. The Emperor protects, Brother Sergeant. The Emperor protects, Validus replied automatically. Then he switched to Squad Vox. All brothers, form assault line. Leonidas, you are our spearhead. Sustained fire on the barricade. Everyone else, overlap firing arcs. When we breach, advance directly into them. Do not give them time to swarm. We kill them faster than they can kill us, or we die. Those are the options. I am proud to die beside you, if that is the Emperor's will. We formed up. 15 of us now. 15 out of 20 still combat capable. We stood shoulder to shoulder, Terminator plate nearly touching, a wall of ceramite and faith. I was positioned between Leonidas and Davos. I could hear Davos breathing over the Vox, rapid but controlled. He was managing his fear, converting it to focus. For the Emperor, Validus said. For the Emperor, we replied in unison. Leonidas opened fire. The assault cannon roared, 6 barrels spinning, rounds tearing into the barricade at 4,000 rounds per minute. Metal shrieked. The barricade began to come apart. Behind it, the Genestealers screamed, a sound I had not heard from them before, high-pitched and furious. They knew we were coming. We advanced into the fire. Storm bolters added their thunder to Leonidas's assault cannon. The corridor became a killing ground. Genestealers poured over the disintegrating barricade, dozens of them, more than Auspex had indicated. They came in a wave of claws and teeth and rage. We killed them as they came. I fired until my Storm Bolter's magazine was empty, then drew my power fist and began crushing anything that reached melee range. A Genestealer leaped at me from the left. I caught it midair with my fist, fingers closing around its torso. I felt ribs crack, felt organs rupture, felt it die in my grip. I threw the body aside and engaged the next one, and the next, and the next. The pattern repeated until thought became irrelevant. I was operating on pure training, pure reflex, pure systematic execution of threats. Brother Davos fought beside me. His flamer had run dry completely now. I saw him drop the weapon and draw his power sword. He fought with precision I had not seen from him before. Each strike calculated, no wasted movement. He had learned something in the previous 50 hours. He had learned efficiency. I felt pride in that, a feeling I should not have had. Then a broodlord came through the carnage. It was massive, perhaps half again as large as the standard Genestealers, psychic aura visible to my auto-senses as a distortion in the air around its body. It moved through our firing lanes as if they were irrelevant, impossibly fast, targeting with clear intelligence. It went for Leonidas first, tactical priority, eliminate our heaviest firepower. It crossed 30 meters in 3 seconds. Leonidas saw it coming. He swiveled his assault cannon, firing point blank. Rounds tore through the broodlord's shoulder, ripping away chunks of carapace and flesh. It did not stop. It hit him like a thunderhammer, claws punching through his armor's breastplate, through the flesh beneath, finding organs. Leonidas made a sound over the Vox, not a scream, something worse, recognition, knowledge that he was already dead. But he kept firing. Even with the broodlord's claws inside his chest, tearing, destroying, he kept firing. His assault cannon roared until the belt ran dry, until his body went into cascade failure. Until his vitals flatlined, he died firing. The assault cannon spun empty, barrels still rotating, clicking uselessly. The broodlord pulled its claws free from Leonidas's body and turned toward the rest of us. I killed it. I do not remember moving. I remember only impact, my power fist connecting with the broodlord's skull, force enough to pulverize ceramite, the moment of contact where I felt its bones shatter, felt its psychic presence snuff out like extinguished flame. It dropped instantly, dead before it hit the ground. But Leonidas was dead too. His body stood for a moment longer in the Terminator plate, held upright by the armor's structural supports. Then the systems registered pilot death and automatically locked, preventing enemy reuse. He became a statue there in the corridor, Crimson Fist's iconography on his pauldrons, assault cannon still in his grip, a monument to faith that had not saved him. We cleared the barricade, 147 Genestilas dead in that engagement. Brother Leonidas dead. Brother Davos wounded. A claw had caught him across the back, tearing through armor, cutting muscle. He could still fight, but was operating with compromised mobility. 14 of us remained operational. We recovered Leonidas's gene seed and continued. We left his body locked in his armor, standing eternal watch in that corridor. The Mechanicus could recover him with the Archaeotech. He had served the Imperium for 162 years. His death was economically justified by the technology we would secure. I understood this. I hated understanding it. The hatred was new, not anger. Anger I had felt before in combat, a hot thing that fueled efficiency. This was colder, deeper, a recognition that I was part of a system that consumed brothers like Leonidas, and called it acceptable losses. That I had participated in this system for 200 years and would continue participating until it consumed me too. That I was not just victim of this machine, but component of it, enabling its function through my service. I archived the feeling and continued. Doctrine provided no protocols for processing existential complicity. Hour 63. We reached the second Archaeotech site, a massive chamber containing what the Mechanicus designated as a weapons control system, possibly a void shield generator or ship-killing lance battery. The technology was beyond my understanding, ancient and valuable. We placed the homing beacon. The Mechanicus confirmed receipt. Another piece of the puzzle secured. Another justification for our dying. Hour 71. Brother Davos collapsed. His wounds had become infected. Genestealer claws carried pathogens that overwhelmed even Astartes' immune systems. I was beside him when he went down. One moment he was advancing, the next he stumbled, fell to one knee, armor's servos screaming as they tried to compensate for his failing strength. "Brother Sergeant," he said over private Vox channel, "I cannot continue. My body is in failure cascade, organ shutdown imminent." I knelt beside him. Through his helmet visor I could see his face, gray, sweating, dying. "We can consolidate you," I said. "Bring you to defensive position. Recovery teams? No recovery teams are coming, brother. You know that. We complete the mission or die trying. Those were the parameters." He was correct. The Imperium had sent us in to clear the Hulk. Until the Hulk was cleared, no additional forces would enter. We were the vanguard and the main assault and the final wave. There was no relief force. "I am going to die in this corridor," Davos said. "I am going to die in the dark in a place without name, and the Imperium will log me as acceptable casualties, and another brother will take my designation, and it will continue. This is how it has always been." "Yes," I said. I could not lie to him. He deserved truth in his final moments. "Will you remember me, Brother Sergeant? You said you would remember me specifically." "I will remember you," I said. "I remember that you hesitate before breaching doors, that you pray silently, lips moving, that you clean your equipment compulsively. I remember that you asked me if fear becomes easier, and I told you it does not. I remember that you wanted to be remembered as specific individual, not statistic. You are Brother Davos. You served for 47 years. You died at age 69, Imperial reckoning. You were afraid but continued anyway. That matters." "Thank you, brother." His vitals were dropping rapidly now. Heart rate irregular. Respiratory distress. Multiple organ failure. Will my service matter? In centuries' time, will anything we did here matter? I should have told him that all service to the Emperor matters, that his sacrifice had meaning beyond measure, that the Imperium endured because of brothers like him who gave everything. Instead, I told him the truth. The Mechanicus will retrieve technology. That technology will serve the Imperium for centuries, perhaps millennia. Your death made that possible. You are fuel for a machine that will continue long after your name is forgotten. That is what your service means. That is all it has ever meant. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled, just slightly. Thank you for honesty, Brother Sergeant. It is gift at the end. To not die comforted by lies. You deserve truth. I wish truth was kinder. His breath was coming in gasps now. I wish his vitals flatlined. He died wishing for things the Imperium could not provide. Individual significance, purpose beyond function, the belief that his specific existence had altered the universe in ways that would persist. I recovered his gene seed. I logged his death. Brother Davos, 4th Company, 1st Terminator Squad, Crimson Fists. Multiple organ failure resulting from infected combat wounds, hour 71 of operation. I marked his location for potential recovery. I stood and continued advancing. I had killed him as surely as the Gene Stealer claws. Not through action, but through participation. I had brought him into this Hulk. I had trained beside him. I had told him fear was information to process, rather than feeling to respect. I had shaped him into component of the Imperial war machine, and the machine had consumed him, and I was still part of that machine. Still advancing. Still clearing corridors, still executing my function. The complicity sat in my chest like shrapnel, but I continued. What else was there to do? 13 of us remained. Hour 84. We reached the Hulk's core section, a vast chamber, perhaps the original bridge of whatever ancient vessel formed the Hulk's central mass. The Gen Stealer presence here was overwhelming. Auspec's return showed 300+ contacts. They had concentrated their forces, prepared for final defense. This was their nest, their sanctuary. We were invading their home. I felt nothing about that. They were Xenos. They had no rights to sanctuary. But the thought existed anyway. We were the invaders here. They had claimed this space, had built their society in the ruins we valued only for salvage. We were killing them to retrieve technology they likely did not understand or care about. The economics justified it, but economics was becoming insufficient philosophy. We formed firing line for the last time. 13 Terminators, ammunition critically low, armor damaged, bodies failing but still operational. Sergeant Validus transmitted final status report to Captain Cortez. Sir, we have reached the core. Gen Stealer concentration extreme. Ammunition depleted beyond sustainable combat. We will engage with whatever remains and transition to melee. Estimate total purge completion at 92%. Archaeotech sites secured. Mission parameters achieved. Anticipated survival rate minimal. Captain Cortez's response. Understood, Brother Sergeant. You have served with honor. The Emperor is with you. Validus switched to Squad Vox. Brothers, we end this now. We kill everything in this chamber. We die achieving mission completion. Our names will be recorded in the chapter's memorial. Our gene seed will create new brothers who will continue the crusade. We are Crimson Fists. We do not fail. We charged. The Gen Stealers met us in the center of the chamber. 300 of them, 13 of us. The mathematics were absurd. We should have died in seconds. We fought for 6 hours. I do not remember most of it. The combat became continuous motion, continuous violence, continuous systematic execution of survival protocols with degrading probability of success. I fired my storm bolter until the ammunition counter read 0. I used my power fist until the energy cell depleted. Then I used my armored fists, punching, crushing, killing through sheer mass and force. My armor sustained 17 penetrations. I felt claws cut through ceramite, through the body glove beneath, into flesh. Pain became background sensation. I continued. Brother Sergeant Validus died in hour 87. A pack of genstealers brought him down through coordinated strikes to his leg joints, collapsing his armor's ambulatory capability. He fell, and they swarmed. He killed 4 of them before they tore him apart. I heard him die over the Vox. He did not scream. He prayed. Emperor, accept my service. I have been your instrument. Let my death have meaning. Then silence. Brother Titus died in hour 88. Brother Constantine in hour 89. Brother Ajax, Brother Pollux, Brother Nero, Brother Theron. All dead between hours 89 and 90. The squad was dissolving. We were being systematically destroyed. But we were destroying them too. For every brother who fell, we killed dozens of genesteals. We were outnumbered, but we were Astartes. We were built for exactly this, to kill vastly superior numbers, to stand alone against impossible odds, to be the Imperium's answer to everything that threatened it. Hour 91, 3 of us remained. Me, Brother Gaius, Brother Maxim. We stood back to back in the center of the chamber, surrounded by genestealer corpses piled waist-high. Perhaps 70 genestealers remained active. We had no ammunition, no functional weapons beyond our armor and our bodies. We were dying, systems failing, bleeding inside our suits. But we continued. Brothers, I said over the Vox, it has been honor. Honor, Gaius replied. For the Emperor, Maxim said. The genestealers attacked again. We killed them with our hands. Brother Gaius died when a broodlord, a second one, somehow we had missed it, in the initial assault, tore his helmet from his armor and crushed his skull. His death was instant. I killed the broodlord immediately after, punching through its chest, finding its heart, pulping it. But Gaius was gone. Brother Maxim and I fought alone then. 2 of us. 40 genestealers remaining. We circled each other, staying close, covering approaches. My armor was barely functional. Auto sensors degraded, servo motors failing, power cells at 4%. I was operating on human strength in Terminator plate that weighed as much as a combat vehicle. Every movement was grinding effort. Brother Arcturus, Maxim said. His voice was weak. He had sustained massive trauma to his torso. I could hear fluid in his lungs when he breathed. I am dying. 60 seconds maximum before cascade failure. I know. I will buy you time. Remember us. Remember we stood here. I will remember. He charged the remaining genestealers alone. A final assault, 1 Astartes against dozens of Xenos, armor failing and body broken, but still fighting. He killed 7 of them before they brought him down. I heard his last words over the Vox. Dorn's blood, Emperor's will. We endure. Then silence. I was alone. 33 genestealers remained. I killed them methodically, one by one, using techniques I had learned 2 centuries ago in the Schola Progenium. Target selection, efficient motion, conservation of energy. My armor's power cells died at hour 92. The armor locked briefly, systems trying to preserve pilot in unpowered state. I overrode the safety protocols manually, forcing the armor to function mechanically. It became dead weight, but I could still move it through muscle alone. Astartes' strength was sufficient. I killed the last genestealer at hour 93. My hands around its throat, squeezing until vertebrae fractured, until it stopped moving. Then I stood alone in the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of corpses. Genstealer bodies everywhere. My brother's armor standing like monuments where they had fallen. Gene seed already recovered by those who died later. A chain of custody maintained even in total chaos. 19 brothers dead. 3 survived. Myself. Brother Kellen from Delta Element, who had been separated during the assault, but had cleared the peripheral corridors. And Brother Thaniel from Beta Element, who had secured the final Archaeotech site and held it alone for 16 hours against continuous assault. We met at the extraction point at hour 98. 3 of 20. 15% survival. Captain Cortez had projected 40% acceptable losses. We had exceeded acceptable by substantial margin. The Mechanicus entered the hulk 6 hours later. Teams of tech priests and servitors, protected by fresh Astartes from Third Company. They began immediate salvage operations. I watched them work, pulling archaeotech from the chambers we had secured with blood, cataloging everything with reverence we had not been shown. The technology was irreplaceable. We were not. I submitted my after-action report standing in the embarkation bay, armor still locked around my body, unable to remove it without assistance because the power cells were dead and the manual releases were damaged. I recited casualty lists, tactical observations, recommendations for future operations. Captain Cortez listened without expression. "Brother Sergeant Arcturus," he said when I finished, "you and your squad have performed exemplary service. The archaeotech recovered will serve the Imperium for millennia. Your brother's sacrifice was not in vain." "Sir," I said, 19 brothers died to retrieve technology. Was the exchange economically optimal? He looked at me for a long moment. "You question the calculation." "No, sir. I understand the calculation. I am asking if you believe it was optimal." The Mechanicus values the recovered technology at irreplaceable strategic worth. 19 Astartes can be replaced through recruitment and training within 2 decades. Yes, Brother Sergeant, the exchange was optimal. Understood, sir. But I did not understand. Or I understood too well. The Imperium was a machine that consumed humans, recruits, soldiers, even Astartes, and converted them into strategic advantage. We were fuel. Our deaths were inputs. The technology was output. The equation balanced, and the machine continued. I was part of that machine. I had been part of it for 217 years. I would continue being part of it until it consumed me too. And when I died, another brother would take my designation, and the pattern would repeat, and the Imperium would endure because it had perfected the art of converting humans into resources without remainder. I thought of Davos asking me if his service would matter. I had told him the truth then. His service mattered as fuel matters to an engine. It was consumed to produce motion, and when it was expended, the engine found more fuel. Individual significance was illusion we told ourselves to make the consumption bearable. But I remembered him specifically anyway. His hesitation before breaching doors, his silent prayers, his fear that he converted into courage through sheer force of will. Those details persisted in my memory, even though they served no tactical function. I remembered Leonidas dying, still firing. Faith absolute even as his body failed. I remembered Castor praying with tears on his face. I remembered all 19 brothers who had entered the hulk with me and died inside it, not as casualty statistics, as specific individuals who had experienced specific deaths and deserved to be remembered as more than acceptable losses. That remembering was my complicity made manifest. I could not change the system. I could not save my brothers from consumption, but I could archive them as individuals rather than numbers. I could carry them as weights that served no function except to remind me that they had existed, had mattered to themselves, if no one else had died wanting to be more significant than they were allowed to be. It was insufficient. It changed nothing, but it was all I could do. The Mechanicus completed salvage operations in 47 days. They recovered all tagged archaeotech, including several additional finds we had not been aware of during our assault. The technology included STC fragments, weapons systems of unknown capability, and data cores that might contain information from the dark age of technology. The Mechanicus estimated the total value as equivalent to the strategic worth of an entire battle fleet. 19 Astartes had died to secure it. The Imperium called this favorable exchange and moved on. I was assigned 2 new missions. I fought in 17 additional campaigns over the following decades. I accumulated more scars, more damage, more memories of brothers dying. The pattern continued as it always had. The Imperium consumed. I endured, but I carried the hulk with me. Mors iterum, the name meant death again in a human language long extinct. Appropriate. I had died in that hulk, not physically but philosophically. I had recognized my complicity. I had understood what I was part of, and could not escape. That understanding changed nothing about my actions. I continued serving, continued killing, continued being component of the Imperial war machine. But it changed everything about my awareness. I exist now at 291 years as Astartes. I have served in hundreds of operations. I have killed thousands of the Imperium's enemies. I have watched scores of brothers die. I will serve until I am destroyed, and when I am destroyed, my gene seed will create new brothers who will serve in turn. The pattern is eternal. Sometimes, during long void transits between campaigns, I access my archived memories. I review the faces of brothers I served with. I retrieve specific details I logged for no tactical reason. The way Brother Leonidas laughed during combat, the way Brother Davos cleaned his weapons 3 times because he did not trust imperfection, the way Brother Castor prayed with absolute faith I could not share. These memories serve no purpose. They do not improve combat efficiency. They do not contribute to mission completion. They exist only because I choose to maintain them. That choice is the last fragment of individual agency I possess. The Imperium owns my body, my capabilities, my gene seed, my life and death. But it cannot own which specific details I choose to remember about brothers who died as components. That space, that tiny, functionally irrelevant space between assigned memory and chosen memory, is where I exist as something other than weapon. It is not freedom. I understand that. I am not free and will never be free. But it is resistance of a kind. The Imperium wants me to process brothers as interchangeable. I refuse. I remember them as specific. I carry their individual significance, even though that significance is illusion. Even though the Imperium does not care. Even though remembering changes nothing. I remember Brother Davos. 47 years of service, died at 69, wanted to matter more than he was allowed to. I remember Brother Leonidas. 162 years of service, died firing with faith that did not save him. I remember Brother Castor. I remember Brother Gaius. I remember Brother Maxim, who charged alone to buy me seconds I did not need, who died mid-prayer. I remember 19 brothers who cleared a space hulk because the technology inside was worth more than their lives. I remember that the calculation was economically sound. I remember that I agreed with the calculation even as I hated it. I remember that I was part of the system that killed them and will kill me. I remember. That is my testimony. That is all I can offer. The Imperium is a machine that converts humans into strategic advantage. It does this with perfect efficiency. It has done this for 10,000 years. It will continue doing this for millennia to come. That machine is neither good nor evil. It simply is, as unstoppable and indifferent as gravity. I am component of that machine. I was built to serve it. I have served it faithfully for nearly 3 centuries. I will serve until I am destroyed. But I remember the brothers who died serving beside me. I remember them as individuals, not statistics. I remember their deaths mattered to them even if they did not matter to the Imperium. I remember that they were human once, before they were weapons. I remember that I was human once too, that remembering changes nothing. The machine continues. The Imperium endures. The pattern repeats. But I remember anyway. Because someone should. Because if no one remembers them as specific individuals, then they died as the Imperium wanted them to die, as interchangeable components whose loss was merely acceptable casualty. If I remember them, if I carry their specific existence in archives that serve no tactical function, then they die as something more, not much more, but more. It is insufficient, it is futile. It changes nothing about the Imperium's calculations or my participation in its mechanisms. But it is true. And at the end of everything, after all the battles, all the centuries, all the brothers lost. Truth is the only thing I have left that the Imperium has not claimed. So I archive it, I carry it, I remember. Brother Davos, Brother Leonidas, Brother Castor, Brother Gaius, Brother Maxim, Brother Tychon, Brother Marcus, Brother Septimus, Brother Corin, Brother Titus, Brother Constantine, Brother Ajax, Brother Pollux, Brother Nero, Brother Theron, Brother Validus, Brother Kellus, Brother Demetrian. 19 names, 19 brothers, acceptable casualties that secured irreplaceable technology from Space Hulk Mors Iterum in 1941. M41. The Mechanicus valued the exchange as strategically optimal. The Imperium logged them as statistics and moved on. I remember them as individuals. That is my testimony. That is the brutal truth about how Space Marines clear Space Hulks in the 41st millennium. We die. The technology survives. The calculation is economically sound. And someone must remember that we were more than calculations, even if being more changed nothing. I remember